I think when Trinitarians really evaluate their own framework, they really believe in the three separate gods. Now, let me explain. The doctrine of the Trinity states that God exists in three persons, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. But each of these persons has their own distinct mind, will, and center of consciousness. That's what the doctrine of the Trinity states. Now, I don't believe that the Holy Spirit has its own separate mind and consciousness from the Father. However, I do think Trinitarians are right in that Jesus has his own mind and consciousness separate from the Father. This can be seen pretty clearly in passages like Luke 22:42, which says, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done." So Jesus and God clearly have distinct wills here. Jesus and the Father also have distinct centers of consciousness, which can be seen by the countless times that Jesus prays to the Father, or Jesus has conversations with the Father. And it can be seen by how God speaks in I's and you's. So, for example, in Isaiah 45:5, when it says, "I am Yahweh, and besides me there is no God." When he says I, that's one center of consciousness. One center of consciousness is Yahweh, and there is no other God. Hebrews 1:5 says, "For to which of the angels did he say at any time, 'You are my son, and today I have become your father'?" So do you see how the scriptures speak of you are my son, and I am your father? Clearly there's two different centers of consciousness going on here. So clearly Jesus and the Father have distinct centers of consciousness, and minds and wills. So to reiterate, Trinitarians believe that each member of the Trinity has their own mind, will, and center of consciousness. Yet if you have three separate beings that have those characteristics, plus they have all the omni attributes, omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience, they know all things. Each member of the Trinity knows all things. Each member of the Trinity is everywhere, and each member of the Trinity is all powerful. So they each have the attributes of God. They each are fully God. Then you have three gods. Now, Trinitarians will typically respond by saying, no, we have one God. We believe in one God. And you may ask, well, what makes them one God? And they'll say, well, it's because they have one nature. They have the God nature, the divine nature, so therefore they are one God. The term consubstantial that you see a lot in the creeds, that's what this means. It just means to have the same nature or essence as each other. So this is exactly how Catholic Answers responds. They say, no, Christianity is indeed monotheistic. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, the three persons of the Holy Trinity, are united as one God because they each wholly possess the same divine nature. As such, they're each distinct, uncreated spirits. And it's important to emphasize distinct versus separate, as separate would indeed imply polytheism. Instead, we have one God because they each wholly possess the same divine nature. But the problem with this explanation from Trinitarians is that we don't count beings by their natures. We count beings by their centers of consciousness or their minds. Now, when I say we don't count beings by their natures, we have to define what a nature is. A nature is a basic or inherent feature of something, especially when seen as characteristic of it. So for instance, the nature of a giraffe would be that it has a really long neck. It has brown spots. It has two eyes. It's very tall. Those are all essential qualities of a giraffe that make a giraffe a giraffe. It's its nature. So I mentioned earlier that we don't count things by their natures. We count them by their centers of consciousness. Let's use the examples of giraffes. Let's say that you have 10 giraffes in a field. There's only one nature in the field, right? It's the giraffe nature. That's the only nature that's present in the field. But we would never say there's only one giraffe in the field because there's only one giraffe nature in the field. No, clearly there's 10 different giraffes in the field. And those 10 different giraffes all share one nature, but they're clearly 10 distinct separate living beings. That's how we count living beings. But yet, for some reason, when it comes to the Trinity, Trinitarians like to count the living being, God, by his natures, not by the separate distinct centers of consciousness. With Trinitarian logic, they would look at the field and say, there's only one giraffe because there's only one giraffe nature in the field. Now, clearly we know that that's wrong instinctually. Each giraffe has its own mind, its own will, its own desires and plans, its own hunger and thirst. That's the same thing with each member of the Trinity, but yet somehow Trinitarians have concluded that this is not three gods. So Trinitarians are counting gods by their natures and saying, okay, since there's three divine beings, but they all have the same nature, there's only one God. But yet that's not at all how we ever count living beings. And I think it's a way to get around the clear biblical teaching that there is only one God. I would posit that the Trinitarian understanding has all the characteristics of believing in three separate gods. Now, simply saying, no, we're monotheistic, that doesn't actually make it so. I would love to hear from Trinitarians what actually makes your view monotheistic. Because clearly this idea that they have the same nature, that doesn't work. That does not make the Trinity monotheistic. So Trinitarians, I hope that you would consider what I've said and reevaluate your own framework and consider, is it really monotheistic? To end, let's listen to the words of the Apostle Paul. He says, "For even if there are so-called gods, whether in heaven or on earth, as indeed there are many gods and many lords, yet for us there is one God, the Father." Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please consider donating in the link below. And as always, please like and subscribe to help more people see content like this.